Okay, good day. So we are going to continue our topic for accounting. Okay. So we are going to tackle the normal account balances of your major account categories and the rules on debit and credit. Okay, so I'm now sharing my screen. So let's start. So we all know that our accounting equation is assets is equals to liabilities plus owner's equity. Okay, so assets will have a debit or debit normal balance, while liabilities and owner's equity have a credit normal balance. Now, the rules for this is the system of analyzing effects of transactions and recording them in terms of debit and credit is known as the double entry bookkeeping. Okay, so we have debit, which came from the Latin word debere, and credit from the Latin word credere. These are simply the accountant's word for left and right. Yeah. So the entry bookkeeping is a method of recording business transactions which recognize the dual effect of a transaction, which means, or this means that for every value received, there is a corresponding value parted with or given out. So that's debit and credit. In double entry bookkeeping, each transaction is recorded by debiting and crediting accounts. So in every transaction, may debit talaga tayo at saka may corresponding credit accounts. Since business transactions are recorded following the double entry bookkeeping system, the next important lesson that must be learned is determining the account or accounts that will be debited and credited in the journal entry. Okay, so we have here an illustration presented to you on your screen. Okay, so we have this debits, assets, and your credit, liabilities, owner's equity, revenues. Okay, so expenses is not a credit normal balance but a debit normal balance. Now, the normal balance of asset is debit. Okay, and assets will be increased when we debit it. So, kailan mag-decrease yung asset? Mag-decrease yung asset natin if it is credited. Okay, so that's the rules for assets. Okay, mag-increase siya if it's debited. Mag-decrease siya when assets are credited. Example, cash. Cash, mag-increase yung cash natin when it's debited. Mag-decrease siya when we pay. So, it is credited. Okay, next, liabilities. Liabilities has a normal balance of credit. Okay, so liabilities will increase when credited. How to decrease a liability? When debited. For example, uh, we bought office supplies on account. So we bought office supplies. So nag-increase yung liabilities natin. Okay. When we pay the office supplies na inutang natin, so we have to credit. Okay. Ayan. So owner's equity has a credit balance. Okay. So owner's equity or capital will increase when credited and it will be decreased when credited. Okay. So let's proceed to revenues. Revenues has a normal balance of credit. Okay. So it will be increased when it is credited. For example, we provided services. So i-credit natin siya. Kailan siya ma-debit? Okay. When we are going to decrease it. Okay. Ayan, or to debit it. Yeah. Next is expenses. So expense is a normal balance of debit. Okay. And when we increase expenses, we are going to debit it. But if we are going to decrease expenses, we are going to credit it. Okay, so those are the rules for debit and credit for our accounts. assets, liabilities, owner's equity, revenues, and expenses. So to sum up, the normal balance for assets is debit, the normal balance of liabilities is credit, the normal balances for owner's equity is credit, normal balance for revenue is credit, and debit naman for expenses. Okay, so I hope that you've learned something from this. So see you next meeting for another video tutorial.